The Tehran Leak. The press room deep beneath the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence hadn't been used in years. It was an architectural relic, wood-paneled walls, faded green carpeting, and a row of flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed softly like nervous insects. But today, every seat was taken. Foreign correspondents, military attachés, intelligence liaisons, faces usually hidden behind classified files, now stared at the podium with silent anticipation. Director Amin stepped forward. His face was pale, almost drawn, as if what he was about to say had physically aged him. He adjusted his glasses, looked over the crowd, and then spoke in perfect, measured English. The footage you are about to see is authentic. It has not been altered. It was taken during the last major military engagement between India and Pakistan in the Kashmir region, 7 months ago. The lights dimmed. The screen behind him flickered to life. A grainy infrared video played first. 2 squadrons, one Indian, one Pakistani, approached a ridgeline. Then, something impossible happened. An object descended silently between them. Triangular, dark, with no visible propulsion, it hovered motionless in the night sky. As it moved, electronic chatter from both sides ceased. Radios went dead. Then came the flash, a spherical pulse of light, expanding and contracting in less than a second. Every soldier in frame collapsed without a sound. Gasps echoed through the room. Director Ramin clicked a remote. Another video. This time, a Pakistani drone captured the same event from a different angle. Identical craft, same flash. What followed was more bizarre. Soldiers standing up moments later, visibly confused, seemingly unharmed, with no memory of what occurred during the blackout. Field commanders had reported it as a shared hallucination. The final clip showed encrypted satellite footage. 6 of these unidentified crafts crisscrossing the disputed border, deploying what looked like metallic spheres into the ground. The objects disappeared from radar within seconds. Ramin turned the lights back on. We believe these events are not isolated. We believe a non-human intelligence was, and perhaps still is, influencing this conflict for reasons we do not yet understand. The room erupted into questions, but he raised a hand. Iran chose to reveal this information now because we believe it is a threat not just to regional security, but to humanity as a whole. We are calling for an immediate international investigation. Within hours, the footage had spread online, leaked from one of the attendees' encrypted devices. News outlets ran the story with every kind of headline, from serious to absurd. Aliens in Kashmir. Iranian intelligence drops bombshell. ET wants war. Were extraterrestrials behind Indo-Pak border clashes? UFO gate. False flag or cosmic truth? In New Delhi, Prime Minister Arya Singh summoned her top military advisors. She watched the footage in silence, jaw clenched, her tea left untouched. Across the border in Islamabad, President Targhazi was doing the same. Both leaders had seen classified reports before. Rumors, pilots' accounts, unexplained radar anomalies. But this was different. This was coordinated. This was undeniable. And it was public. Behind closed doors, both nations accused each other of collaborating with a foreign power. Disinformation, India's defense ministry called it. Psychological warfare, Pakistan responded. But privately, their intelligence chiefs were scrambling to verify what Iran had shown and what their own operatives had overlooked. At street level, reactions ranged from awe to disbelief. In cafes and mosques, on college campuses and message boards, one question dominated. What if it's true? Some called it a distraction, an elaborate lie to shift focus from political failures or corruption scandals. Others believed it was a warning, that Earth's most volatile regions had become test grounds for a far greater force. In a Lahore coffee shop, a retired army colonel muttered to no one in particular, if aliens really wanted to conquer us, they wouldn't need to stage a border war. They'd just come down and take everything. Back in Tehran, Director Ramin reviewed the footage again, this time alone. He paused the screen on a frame that no one else had noticed. The alien craft hovering, but in the distant clouds behind it, a shadow, too large and too still to be natural. His phone buzzed. A secure message. They've responded. Prepare the next release. Ramin stared at the screen for a long moment, then slowly smiled. Phantom War. The Geneva summit was hastily arranged under the guise of a climate and disarmament forum. In reality, it was the first covert meeting between Indian, Pakistani, and Iranian intelligence since the Tehran Leak shook the world. Inside a secure chamber beneath the UN complex, the air was thick with mistrust. Director Ramin sat across from General Aryan Varma of India and General Aftab Qureshi of Pakistan. Decades of political hostility simmered just beneath the surface. Each man had been trained to suspect the other. But now, they shared the same problem. Something was playing games on their battlefield, and none of them were in control. Ramin broke the silence. We've reviewed over 20 incidents in the last year alone. Kargil, Sialkot, Kupara, each marked by anomalies, sudden jamming, impossible troop movements, electromagnetic spikes. General Varma, ever the skeptic, leaned forward. You expect us to believe this is all alien interference? Could be cyber warfare, experimental drones, Chinese misdirection. General Aftab scoffed. You think we haven't considered that? Our satellites picked up objects accelerating beyond Mach 10. No propulsion, no heat signature. Ramin nodded. We believe these entities are not aligned with any nation. We also believe they are testing our response thresholds, observing how close we come to full-scale war without pushing us over the edge. The room fell silent. Varma clicked a remote. A classified Indian military feed began playing. The screen showed a battalion advancing along a forested ridge. Without warning, every soldier collapsed simultaneously. Then, seconds later, they stood up again. No injuries. No memory. The timestamp matched one of the Tehran clips. This is Operation Winter Dust, Varma said. This was never made public. Even we didn't know what to make of it. Until now. General Aftab's expression hardened. This same thing happened to our troops in Nalam Valley. Our drones picked up something else, though, smaller orbs hovering behind the trees. They disappeared when engaged. We assumed they were Indian recon units. They weren't ours, Varma said flatly. Ramin pulled out a sealed folder. Inside were photos. One of a strange, metallic implant removed from the shoulder of a Pakistani soldier. Another showing cropped circle-like impressions near a destroyed Indian artillery position. Perfectly symmetrical, burned into rock. He placed them in the center of the table. We found similar markers near abandoned nuclear sites across Iran. Whatever this force is, they're marking places of strategic interest. Aftab frowned. As preparation, Ramin hesitated. As data points. Think of Earth like a chessboard, and we're pieces reacting to their moves. Varma exhaled through his nose. So what do we do? Tell the world the gods have come down to watch us kill each other. Ramin shook his head. No, not yet. We form a joint task force. Quiet. Observational. We share findings in real time. No media. No generals. Just us. Aftab narrowed his eyes. You trust us that much? No, Ramin said. But I trust that whatever this is, it's bigger than all of us. Meanwhile, outside the closed chambers, the media storm intensified. Conspiracy theorists had seized on the Tehran Leak like a religious awakening. Hashtags like hashtag Kashmirilians and hashtag UFO proxy war were trending globally. Talk shows ran loops of the footage, sometimes over dramatic music, sometimes with glowing studio overlays. Every expert had a theory. Most were wrong. In Karachi, mobs gathered outside the Indian consulate, accusing them of collaborating with alien powers. In Delhi, angry protesters demanded a formal inquiry into the possibility of secret experiments. Across Iran, people had started looking to the skies with new suspicion and fear. Governments, meanwhile, scrambled to maintain control. Disinformation campaigns flooded social media. Old UFO hoaxes were revived and recirculated to drown out real sightings. Satellite feeds were scrubbed. Reporters were warned. But underground, people were talking. Soldiers who had been deployed in the conflict zones began to share stories. Invisible figures seen at night, glowing footprints in the snow, the sense of lost time. In a quiet back alley in Peshawar, a young private whispered to his cousin, "I don't think we're fighting each other anymore." Back in Geneva, as the task force concluded its first meeting, Ramin lingered behind. He opened his secure tablet and reviewed an intercepted signal, something captured only once during the height of the Kashmir incident. It wasn't a voice. It was a sequence of tones, artificial, rhythmic, and strangely familiar. Iranian analysts had tried to decipher it. Only one had made a real breakthrough, a linguistic AI at the University of Tehran. The translation was just one line. "You're not yet ready, but you will be." Ramin stared at the message. Then he sent a single encrypted reply to both Varma and Aftab. Phase 2 begins. The hidden accord. The Himalayan air was thin, bitter, and deathly quiet. A convoy of black, unmarked vehicles snaked its way up a narrow path carved into the mountainside. Inside the lead vehicle sat General Varma, flanked by 2 aides and a satellite communications expert. Across the convoy, Pakistani and Iranian agents rode in parallel vehicles, each representing rival nations now bound by an unspoken understanding. Whatever was happening on Earth's borders wasn't entirely earthbound. They reached the site at dawn. Nestled in a crevice below the snow line, shielded by tarps and thermal dampeners, was the object. Even in daylight, it shimmered unnaturally, sleek, metallic, and curved like an organic shell. Half buried in fractured stone, it was small, barely the size of a compact vehicle, but unmistakably not of human origin. It had no seams, no visible controls, just one faintly pulsing line of light, glowing a pale blue. "This is the pod?" Varma asked, his voice low. A Pakistani engineer nodded. "Recovered 2 weeks ago. Locals thought it was a satellite. But nothing we have, American, Russian, Chinese, matches this design." Director Ramin arrived moments later, his heavy boots crunching through the frost. "You haven't opened it?" "No," the engineer replied. "We didn't have to." He led them to a connected command tent, where screens displayed internal scans, none of them consistent. Every hour, the probe's structure shifted slightly, as though it was rewriting its own material. The internal compartments rearranged themselves with no visible mechanics, as if it were alive. Ramin spoke quietly. "It's a probe, not a craft. We think it was watching, recording." General Aftab stared at the images. "So what happens now? Do we destroy it before it calls home?" Varma shook his head. "Too late for that." He opened his satchel and dropped the dossier on the table. Inside were printouts of signal logs captured from the object. Every few hours, it emitted a narrow beam skyward, precise, encrypted, and undetectable to most standard surveillance systems. Iran had caught the tail end of one. So had India. When decoded, the pattern repeated the same phrase. "Test parameters complete. Escalation achieved. Awaiting directive." Ramin exhaled slowly. "Escalation achieved." Aftab looked at the others. "You think it was instigating the conflict?" "Not just instigating," Ramin said. "Manipulating. It wants to see how we react under pressure. How close we come to mutual destruction." Varma closed the folder. "And if that's the case, the next phase might not be observation." Silence fell. Then came a new voice from the Indian technician monitoring the scan feeds. "Sir, the internal temperature just dropped. Something's happening." They rushed back to the probe. The glowing line pulsed rapidly, then dimmed. A panel, previously invisible, seamlessly opened with a soft hiss. Inside, a thin, rectangular object, matte black with no symbols. A data tablet or something like it. Ramin reached for it. The moment his fingers touched the surface, holographic images flared to life in the air. They weren't of stars or planets. They were of Earth. Maps, military installations, nuclear facilities, civilian population clusters, every site of strategic value. Then, projections, simulations of escalating conflict, India versus Pakistan, Iran versus Israel, China versus Taiwan, each ending in either mass death or rapid, unnatural intervention. Finally, a countdown. 23 hours. The images vanished. No one moved. Aftab broke the silence. That's a threat. No, Ramin replied, his face pale. That's an ultimatum. The task force met in the tent an hour later. Every major military was placed on silent alert. Communication satellites were jammed. Civilian air traffic grounded across northern India and western Pakistan. Varma spoke first. If they want a response, we give them one. Together. Aftab nodded. A show of unity. Ramin added, and strength. But we don't attack. We send a message. Using satellite relays, deep-sea cables, and encrypted frequencies, the three nations coordinated a burst transmission, coded in every known human language and mathematical constant. We are aware. We are watching. And we will not destroy ourselves for your test. They transmitted it continuously, aimed at the source vector where the probe had signaled. For 23 hours, the world held its breath. Then, at the 22nd hour, the probe shut down. Its lights went dark. Its structure froze, no longer shifting. A low hum faded into silence. The threat had passed, or so they hoped. Later, Ramin stood alone at the edge of the cliff, staring into the early dawn. We didn't pass their test, he muttered. We just refused to play it. Behind him, General Varma approached. And that may have been the most human thing we've ever done. Humanity response. The broadcast went live at 9 o'clock GMT. Every major news network, streaming platform, and state-run channel was synchronized. For the first time in history, representatives from India, Pakistan, and Iran stood side by side at the United Nations General Assembly. Director Ramin spoke first, his voice steady. This is not a declaration of war. This is not an announcement of discovery. This is a recognition of reality. Behind him, a massive screen displayed rotating 3D renderings of the alien probe discovered in the Himalayas, side by side with the intercepted signals, footage from the battlefield, and images of the mysterious holographic countdown. No music, no dramatization, just raw evidence. General Varma took over. We now have undeniable proof that a non-human intelligence has been observing and possibly influencing military escalations on Earth. He let the words settle like lead in the room. General Aftab followed. We cannot yet determine the extent of their interference, their intentions, or their long-term presence. But we can no longer deny the fact. Earth is under surveillance. And we, humanity, must respond as one. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Dozens of delegates reached for their earpieces as the live translation flooded in. Hours earlier, the leak had been preempted. Anonymous whistleblowers within the Intelligence Alliance had distributed classified materials to international media outlets. By the time the UN session began, the world had already seen the alien transmission logs, probe footage, and joint task force records. Governments could no longer spin the truth. Public reaction was immediate and chaotic. In New York, thousands gathered in Times Square, watching the UN broadcast unfold on giant digital billboards. Some wept, some prayed, others cheered. Across Tehran, Delhi, and Islamabad, spontaneous peace vigils broke out, candlelit gatherings not for the fallen, but for the living, for the future. But not everyone reacted with hope. Markets plunged, defense budgets surged. In Washington, Moscow, and Beijing, military leaders called for containment strategies. Some argued for preemptive strikes on known hot zones. Others called for total secrecy moving forward. In fringe corners of the internet, paranoia exploded. It's a ruse. They're lying to cover a bioweapon. The aliens are already here, in disguise. But amid the noise, something rare happened. A moment of global clarity. In the days that followed, the United Nations convened a historic emergency vote. 93 nations agreed to establish the Earth Strategic Surveillance and Response Command, SARC, a multilateral body, not tied to any one government, designed to monitor and counter non-human incursions. The first directive? Full transparency. The second? No retaliation unless provoked. And the third? A response. SARC's lead astrophysicist, Dr. Rima Chaudhary, crafted a return transmission using the same narrowband frequencies the alien probe had used. The message was simple. We are not your experiment. "We are not your battlefield. This is our planet, and we will not be manipulated." The signal was beamed into deep space through a network of satellites and interstellar relays, aimed at the region of sky from which the probe's original signals had originated. It was humanity's first unified message to the stars. Meanwhile, researchers around the world scoured archives, battle footage, and geological data. Patterns began to emerge, sightings stretching back decades, perhaps centuries. It became clear the Kashmir incident wasn't the beginning. It was simply the moment we noticed. Across cultures, ancient symbols began to gain new interpretations. Old myths, gods descending from the sky, beings freezing time, star chariots, and ancient paintings, were re-evaluated in a new context. The question shifted from, "Are we alone?" to "Why us?" A month later, SARC released a classified report to the public. The conclusion was chilling. The escalation may have been a probe, not only of our weapons, but of our minds, our choices. We passed not by defeating the intruder, but by refusing to destroy ourselves in its presence. In that quiet resistance, something extraordinary had happened. Not domination, not capitulation, but unity. On a quiet rooftop in Mumbai, a young girl pointed a telescope at the stars. Her father knelt beside her, adjusting the lens. "Do you think he'll come back?" she asked. He looked up at the sky, then down at her. "They're still watching," he said. "But now they know we're watching back."